Ladies and gentlemen, what's up everyone, and welcome back to the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. Today's guest is Kelsey Silverman, a lifelong martial artist, competitor, coach, and leader whose journey perfectly represents what the podcast is all about. From growing up inside a family-run karate school to stepping onto national and international stages, Kelsey's life has been shaped by discipline, resilience, and consistency. She didn't just train martial arts, she lived it. Weapons, Kata, Kumite, years of competition, team trials, international travel, and the mental battles of overcoming those high-level performances. What makes Kelsey's story truly powerful isn't just what she accomplished on the mat, it's what she carried forward beyond it. After competition, she transitioned that same mindset to the world of fitness, coaching, and leadership. From working with athletes to guiding everyday people towards longevity, strength, and confidence, she embodies the idea that success isn't about shortcuts, it's about sustainability. Kelsey believes in earning results, playing the long game, and showing up with purpose. Her approach to coaching is rooted in education, adaptability, and understanding that people don't just want to be trained, they want to be empowered. This conversation dives deep into martial arts, competition, identity, burnout, growth, and what it truly means to build a life and career around something you love, while staying grounded and authentic. So whether you're an athlete, a coach, or someone simply trying to level up in life, this episode is going to resonate. Let's get into it. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. Today we were joined by Kelsey Silverman. Kelsey, what's going on today?
Not much. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. This is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so for the viewers are watching, so Kumite Lifestyle, I guess in a literal sense means grappling or the meeting of hands. So if anyone that does martial arts is very familiar with Kumite, or at least they should be. So the idea of this podcast is to bring on people from all walks of life, not just martial artists. But one of the things that really stood out with you, Kelsey, and I showed you that list of, potential guests, is I wanted to bring you on because even though I don't know you too well, I guess, if you will, just in passing, if you will, but I know you have a very strong karate background and you've competed. I think that's amazing. And I also want to dive into your fitness career. So before we start with all of that, let's kind of start back in time. So my first memory of you, gosh, is I think 2010. I was at the Junior Olympics. Actually, no. Social media. So I remember I remember back in 2010, I just started the AAU and the USA NKF, and I was I've always been big into networking and collaborating. So I think back in the time, the best way to do that was just to add random people. So if you were a USA team member or if you had a jacket on, which was sick, I was like, yep, I'm going to add that person. So yeah, so remember your name coming up. So let's start with that. So when did you start your karate journey? Where does that begin and why did you start training?
Yeah. Well, my family owns a karate school. So I was born and raised into it. My dad grew up as a boxer his whole life. They lived in New York. He moved to Virginia, and then they opened up a karate school. It started in a open room in a firehouse department, and then it led into our garage, and then it led into what used to be a bar, and it just progressed and as soon as I could walk, I was kicking and punching, and I grew up around it. The whole aspect of weapons and kata and kumite and breaking boards, and yeah, so way back for as long as I can remember.
No, that's sick.
Yeah.
Now I know you said that it's something that was ingrained early on, but did you ever feel was it something that you had to do, or did you feel kind of obligated even at a young age, even if you can't, I guess, conceptualize that at the time? Mm-hmm. Did you feel okay, if I don't do this, I'm going to let the family down? Did you ever feel that at all?
No, which is so weird. I have 3 brothers and we all grew up the same way. And even my brothers kind of at some point fell off into other sports. Loved lacrosse more, loved basketball more. I played other sports, but this was always my main thing. And, you see plenty of people that have the overbearing parents that force them to travel and force them to compete. And that was never a thing. My dad was always my coach. He's always been my biggest inspiration, even to things I'm doing today. And no, I was completely obsessed. Sorry, I can't go to the homecoming football game on Friday because I got to train. I've got a tournament next weekend. So no, it was weird. It was always my huge part in life. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I think that's interesting too. So I don't think it's until later on in life we start understanding like what other athletes or what our counterparts had to go through. But I know for
Hmm.
myself, I was never forced to do karate, thankfully, which is why I'm still in love with it today. And
Yeah.
you see a lot
Yeah.
of athletes from any sport, they kind of peak at a certain point, and then especially when, so like I'm a huge wrestling fan, so like I follow college wrestling, and I know that with wrestlers and or just athletes in general, like yeah, they like they're good at it or they're great at the sport, but if they don't love it, that can be detrimental, you know?
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later on, but I work with a lot of youth athletes now still, and you see the difference between the ones that really want to be there and the ones that have to be there. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about sports too. So I feel like in karate, especially because while it's our life, you know, for us and it's helped define us of who we are, I know for everyone else that's kind of almost doing it as a hobby. But I feel like once people get to like, I don't know, their teen years, like 14, 15,
Yeah.
that's where like we see a lot of people kind of drop off from karate because like you said, your family and your brothers doing other sports.
Yeah.
So was there ever a time like maybe in your I don't know, your teenage years where like you love karate, but there's a point where it's like what's the point of this? Like where's this going to take me like, you know, 10 years from now, you know?
Yeah. For me, no. Um, I loved to compete. Like, I don't think I ever thought about college when I was younger. I never thought about college. I never thought about like post college and what my karate life would look like. I just loved to compete. Every year it was for nationals and it was for weight cuts and it was for Pan Ams. And no, I never had that. And I did love volleyball and I played volleyball for the high school team. I played for the travel team, but that was the hobby. So if I had to like pick a practice, didn't go to volleyball that day. So for me, it was never like that. But I know a lot of people, it was more of a choice, right? They had to kind of play, my brothers, for example, like they had to kind of play both sports half and half equally. But for me, it was never like that.
No, that's awesome, which is why you've obviously had great success. So before we jump into your, I guess your start of your national, you know, competition days and your, you know, experience traveling overseas, I got to ask, and I know I used to struggle with this all the time when kids would come up to me and like even my friends, because everyone thinks that karate is like all this ninja stuff and like they because people kind of have like their own persona of it, and maybe they like,
Yeah.
and I get it because like if you watch the Karate Kid, I guess nowadays kids watch Cobra Kai, which is actually a pretty cool series. But I'm just wondering, like, did you ever struggle, like, I don't know, like explaining what karate actually is for like the person that's never done it? Because we know what it is, but how do you
Yeah.
explain that to someone? It's like, hey, Kelsey, I know you do that, yeah, that you know karate stuff.
Yeah.
Like what is that? So like, I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like how do you explain that to someone?
Well, I think for anybody who does karate and has a good understanding of it, you get the three main comments. You get the, hey, can you break this in half?
Oh
You
yeah,
get the, oh, I better not mess with you because you're going to fight me. And
yeah,
then there's just the aspect of like, is this the crane? Like, is this what we do? Like, you know, the Karate Kid aspect. So
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
comments were always out there. I would say I'm from a really small town. And so everybody knew everything about everybody. And my dad worked in the school system, and we had a karate school, which is pretty unique. So people had a little bit more of an understanding of what we did. Anytime we went to nationals and place, like it was in the newspaper. Any of my friends, local tournaments, people would come watch.
Right.
We used to be next to forever ago before my dad got the new like the karate school they're in now. We used to be in like a little rental space next to a restaurant and bar. And every Friday night was our fight nights, and you'd always get the drunk stumbling out of the bar who were like, "Hey, we can fight you." Like, and so it became kind of a thing where some of my friends would come and see that just aspect. My dad
Yeah.
didn't do anything, but just kind of like see the difference between like what we were doing and versus what's like a grapple and bar fight. But yeah,
Yeah.
people totally don't understand. And even people here, I live in North Carolina now, when they ask me, what's your background? Like, what sports did you play? What brought you here? I always do the, well, I played volleyball, but I have a karate background. And they're like, whoa, that's so weird. So it's a unique topic for sure.
Yeah. And like I wonder why they say it's so weird because I think it's like it's such a cool thing, you know? And like I feel
Yeah,
karate now is more pop culture because everyone knows what karate is.
sure.
And you said something where it's so I'm actually curious. So I know you mentioned about the bar and like you know, people would come at off hours, if you will, or like not odd times, if you will. But was that weird when you would like have to explain like, no, like this isn't a street fight. There's rules to it.
I never had to do it. My dad always had to do it. And
Yeah.
it would just be funny. It wouldn't happen that often, but every couple of weeks, some guy would stumble over. No, my dad was pretty professional in that sense. He could keep a good relationship and talk a guy down. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so shout out to your Rob Robert. I met him a few times over the years, and it was a Virginia tournament. I remember, and I
Yeah.
don't think you were at that one specifically, but I remember your brothers being there. So I've had a chance to meet him. So yeah, just to kind of put that in perspective for those watching. Yeah, so your dad's definitely the real deal there. So it's cool that you've had such a good upbringing, like in that sense. Great. So now I want to talk about like your time competing. So, like I said, like I think 2010 was when I first saw you originally. It was at the Junior Olympics, and I remember we were texting about that. But I just remember you being a fierce competitor, and like you weren't like you weren't the biggest one out there, but man, like your Kia was like it echoed, if you will. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So did you start competing like early on, like when you started training, or was that something that kind of gradually built up? Was that a conversation maybe you had with your dad or your family? So yeah, let's start there.
Yeah.
So when did you start competing?
Gosh. I probably started competing as soon as you could. So I guess that would be like the 6-7 division, maybe.
Yep.
And we were AAU at the time. So 2010, 2009 was around the time where I was trying out for the AAU team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we competed. I had been competing forever since I was 6 years old, probably. I did all the events, weapons, kata, kumite. I never really loved weapons. It was kind of something that we did, and it was part of it, which is funny because later on in years, I would ask to be done with it. And my dad's like, yeah, you go to nationals, you win all three events, you can be done with weapons. And then I would compete, and I actually won all three events. And he's like, all right, well, we'll start a new weapon next week. And I'm like, great. So weapons was there for me. And kata I really loved mostly when I was younger. When I was younger, I was actually better at kata, which is weird. And then I think once I got into like got a little older and the real deal, once it was like the big leagues,
Yeah.
it was not like it wasn't for me. And that's when I switched more to just kumite and just fighting. But yeah, I mean, we were AAU for a really long time, and my dad was big into the organization, and we knew a lot of people. I mean, I know you had Moose on here, and Eggleston was one of the most
Yeah.
amazing men.
Yep.
He was great friends with my dad. So Chuck Beadle out of Roanoke, like there were a lot of people that we were connected to in the AAU organization. And then I think it was around, I was probably like 12 because I think it was my first year trying out. So it had to have been like 2012 or so. I guess that doesn't make sense. That math doesn't make sense. Whenever I was 12,
Yeah,
we
you're
had
good.
switched over to NKF, and that was a whole new ball game for me. But in AAU, I did go to Japan. I did get the letter to be invited onto their team, and that was the only team I traveled with AAU. But that was my first time traveling, and it was an experience to go to that. I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever did part of that with AAU.
Yeah.
But Asia U. Robinson and Cindy U. Robinson,
Yeah.
like we knew them through
Oh yeah.
that trip. That was the first time I met them. And Asia and I kind of competed, I think, on and off years. I think she's a year younger than me. But yeah, I went to Japan, and it was a new experience. I think there were like 70 or 80 people in my division. I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And just walking with the team and training with the team and matching your suits, like it was cool. It was new, and I was young. I probably was like 10 on that AAU team.
Nice.
So yeah.
No, that's so awesome. And so, like for those watching, the AAU is the Amateur Athletic Union, and it's such a well put together organization. It's not just karate; it's a multi sport facet. But what I love about the AAU, and you said it best, it gives the athletes an opportunity to compete. You know, whether it's locally, nationally, and then of course international, as you mentioned, Japan there. And yes, I had a chance to go to Italy with the AAU team in 2010, so I kind of got a chance to kind of
Yeah.
like you like had those same emotions that you're talking about. But yeah, I think the AAU, like, and it's still strong today because, as you mentioned, I had Coach Moose on, and he really educated me on where the AAU is today. And I know ultimately, I guess the fundamental grassroots is that AAU is a really good developmental program, but I don't necessarily like that word because there's solid AAU competitors, and there's always
Yeah.
But then you mentioned that switch over to the NKF, and you're right. It's like, so you have the minor leagues and then you have the major leagues. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that there's not enough, and I want to be careful about how I say this, but I guess unity, if you will. If you
Hmm.
had both of them come together, imagine how great, the sport would be. But as we
Yeah.
were talking about off air, it's just all political, man. It's just
Yeah.
all this extra BS stuff that has nothing to do with us or the competitors.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
when you made that switch, so actually let's talk about Japan
Hmm.
because I wanted to talk about your international career, but you kind of transitioned to that nicely. So I know you said you were 10 and you were on that team. So talk about like what that was like, not just the travels, but competing from, I guess, from Virginia and then to the nationals, and
Yeah.
then you make it to the international scene. So what
Yeah.
was that jump like, even at such a young age? Like, were you old enough to kind of understand, like, man, like this is game changer right now?
Yeah. I'm not sure I was 10 or 11. I'm not sure I understood at the time how big of a deal it was. I think a couple of years later in traveling, I realized like how big of a deal it was.
Yeah.
But Japan was my first taste at, just other countries and the intensity of that division. And it was actually the first time I didn't have my dad as a coach, too, which kind of transitioned later into my years as well.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen anything like it. I remember there being like 70 or 80 people in my division, which was crazy. And
Oh, you said
I think
70 to 80?
yeah,
Oh
it was
my
nuts
goodness.
because I've never seen anything like that, even at NKF. It was weight divisions and stuff. But AAU, I remember having like, I was like, how does a bracket even work? Like, it was that many people.
Yeah.
Um, I think I might have won one fight, right? Like, so I'm knocked out with the first like 50 people or whatever it is. But it was just the experience was cool. And we already had such a good connection with the people in that organization. And then I met a lot of people through that as well. And I think there was a couple people. I think Luke Sargentino, if you even know him,
Sartino.
but
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, he was on
Yeah.
the AAU team with me,
He's
and
still killing it today. He's still
he
a beast
transitioned over
today.
to NKF around the same time. So
Yeah.
he was one of the only people. I'm trying to remember if there's anybody else, but he was one of the only people that I remember like doing that transition with at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Luke was also on the Italy team with me. And
okay,
yeah, something you said about like, those emotions about being over there. So when I went over, it was my first time competing overseas, and like it was with the AAU, but I remember like seeing like my fellow countrymen, if you will, like age 10 to like 13, like I was so impressed with how disciplined these like young kids were. And they're like,
yeah,
training alongside me, and like, not imposter syndrome because I hate that word, but sometimes I was like, man, do I even deserve to be with these fellow athletes,
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like I mean, my experiences were great as well over there. But yeah, like just the connections you make, even
Hmm.
lifelong friends I still have with today. But I was really
Yeah.
impressed with the coaches because like who was coaching over there at the time? Because for Italy, I had Coach O'Hara, Coach Adamson.
Okay, yeah. O'Hara is probably the one I remember the most.
He's a legend.
For
He's a
some,
beast.
yeah, for some reason this trip is the hardest one for me to remember, probably because it's the oldest, but and it was the first one. But yes, I had Coach O'Hara, and I remember loving him. He
Yeah.
was great to work with. Yeah,
So when you're competing over there and you said so your best, like you won I'm sorry, you lost your first match. Was that what
I
you're
I might have won like one, and that's it. So I think I won one, and I think I was kicked out right after that.
now looking back now, like were your competitors actually better than you, or was it really that mental game of like, oh my goodness, things, do I go first or
Yeah.
where do they go?
That trip specifically, I do not remember. It was so long ago. I will say, like, later into my other years on the team with NKF, there were times where they were just better than me. Like, my whole thing was I was a kicker. I could kick and hook kick for days. Like, that was
Oh
my
yeah.
thing. And I went over, I can't remember which, I think it might have been Mexico or Brazil, one of the years I traveled, and I got smoked by a girl from Turkey, kicked me in the head like three times. And I was like, I never get kicked in the head. Like, what? I was mind blown, right? And
Yeah.
that was the first time I learned about like other countries are like fighting for scholarships with this. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, my eyes were open on that trip.
Yeah.
Then there are other times where like Mental game for sure. Coming into it, like just having the other USA person on your team. Like I was like, I beat them at nationals. Like, what if I don't beat them overseas? Like that would be the worst thing ever. And then you just get in your head or
Yeah.
however they look, now you think about it and you're like, it was a 15-year-old girl. But back then I think about them like, she looks terrifying. And so like
Yeah.
I had their mental game was a big part of it for me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that mental game exists for any athlete, right? So like it
Hmm.
transcends to other sports too, and even other areas of life. Now, there was something so going back to Coach O'Hara real quick, and I don't want this to slip, but I remember when we were over there and you said like when you got scored on 3 times and you realized like, man, these athletes are competing for scholarships and like other things in their country that, is so important. But I remember Coach O'Hara saying like, he was saying like I think it was the second night, but he said, and I'm going to paraphrase. He said, "Guys, you have to understand that like we are so privileged as a country to be able to do this. Like we have cell phones,
Hmm.
we have like nice
Yeah.
hotel, nice jackets, and a lot
Yeah.
of the countries that were there were sleeping on the buses. And
Mm.
I took that for granted because I just didn't know. And
Yeah.
I remember like a lot of the countries that were fighting like Team USA, they were trying to like kill us. And I was thinking
Yeah.
like what's like I thought this was supposed to be fun. And then I remember I think it was Coach Ingram saying like, no, these guys are like they want to take us out because they have something to prove. So
Yeah, for sure. It was an intensity level for sure that took me a couple of years to even understand or see that. But yeah, I totally.
how do you prepare for something like that? So like you get the word that you're making the team. So let's kind of switch to the NKF now, as we
Mhm.
kind of stay on the same path. But when you're back home and you're getting ready to train for like a big event, because I mean, unfortunately, like we don't have, all of Team USA with us when we're training back home. But
Yeah.
how did you prepare personally to kind of elevate to that next level to the best of your ability?
It's funny. I was actually telling somebody this the other day. My dad was great. And growing up, I had one person in our dojo that was my age, my ability, my height, and everything. Her name was Shannon Clark. She also went
Yeah, she
pretty
made.
far
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
AAU and
Yep.
NKF team, and she was really the only one in our dojo
Shannon.
that was my age. And so, besides her and fighting her and training with her, I had to fight all the boys. I had to fight all the older boys. And I
Yeah.
was little, and like I said, every Friday night was like our fight night. That was kind of our thing. And it's a joke with my family that every Friday night, my dad and I wouldn't speak for a whole dinner because I was mad at him. He'd make me fight the boys. I'd get hurt. I'd cry, and I wouldn't talk to him for the rest of the night. And I really think like at the time, it's the worst thing ever, right?
Sure.
Couldn't be worse.
Yeah.
But looking back, I mean, I leveled up. Like I had to fight up. I had to get my butt kicked to kind of step up. And then you know your competition out there and you learn from that. And I think that helped a lot. But I was always dedicated. Like I always loved to train. I put in the hours. I wanted to travel. I wanted to compete. But yeah, in preparation for it, you got to fight up. You got to get your butt kicked. You got to get humbled from time to time for sure.
Yeah. So true. And like I love the little analogy about your dad and you just going back and forth. I think it's very common, especially like
Yeah. Hmm.
as you're progressing. So yeah, so let's talk about the NKF now. So talk
Hmm.
about the levels that changed when you like
Yeah.
jumped because like you said so your best. It's like you're going from like a different league. So for you, because
Yeah.
you only did 1 year of NKF, but I know you did several years of it. You
Yeah.
had great success. So like if you can kind of start from the beginning, like you just did AAU and you're doing really good with that, and then you go to NKF, like like I don't know.
Yeah.
Explain that
It,
because
it
I
was a
can't relate
big
to that.
switch. Yeah, it was a huge switch. I think I was 12 because I think that was the first year you can try out for NKF. And there was talk like, oh, NKF is the real deal. Like
Yeah.
you got to make the switch if you want to progress and you want to travel and you want to do this stuff. And we didn't know a lot about it. We just heard the chatter.
Hmm.
And I think it started honestly is I think we went to Coach Baldus's camp in Pittsburgh and
Which Baldus, yeah.
back in whatever year that was. And I got my butt kicked. Like it was in AAU, you're so used to like you move first. You're supposed to be the train. Like you don't stop until they say stop. And it didn't work that way. You move first, I got scored on. Like
Yeah.
you weren't smart about your movement. You got hit before you even realized it. And so we went to this camp, and it's a great camp if you've never been. But you do the
Pittsburgh.
how It's
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep.
But you do a couple days, and then it usually ended with like a competition, I believe. And
Yep.
Coach Baldus is wonderful. I know he's been on this show. I met Tommy Hood, if you
Yeah.
know Coach Hood, and I still stay in touch with him from time to time today. He was wonderful, and we kind of pulled him aside, and I connected with him a lot during the training camp, and he gave me some harsh reality of like, you got to go home and you have to shift everything. Like
Yeah.
you
Your
got to change
game.
this up, or you're
Yeah.
going to get your butt kicked in the team trial division. And I think it didn't really click at the time. Like I was like, oh, okay, but I do so well at AAU. Like, but we went home and we looked at the rules, and I had to wear the big eye mask. They don't do it anymore,
Oh,
but the
dude,
eye
I
mask with
remember
the
that.
nose that came out that
Yes.
long.
It was so
Hated
ugly.
putting it on. It was
Yes.
awful. And it also like you couldn't touch it at the time, and it stuck out like this much. And so it was a really big adjustment.
The
But we
beak.
trained, we called it the beak at home. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody else did that.
Yes, I remember that switch. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
it was a really
like,
big
why is everyone looking
adjustment.
like a bird right now?
Yeah, we learned, like I had to really develop my jab, like getting explosive off of that one punch and checking your distance. Like it really was a big shift.
Yeah.
And then we went to nationals that year, and that was my first year trying out. And I had a really small division. I was really teeny tiny back then, so I was in like the low
Yeah.
weight class, and I took first. And that was my first year where I went to El Salvador. And so that was
Yeah.
my first,
Yep.
my trip with NKF.
Yep.
And I was the baby on the team. So it was really cool seeing everybody older than me and training with them and experiencing that. And
Who was
Tommy
on that team?
Hood.
Do you remember? Who was on that trip with you? That like stands out. That's like moved on to do big things. I'm sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off, but things I just want to.
No, you're good.
I'm just curious.
Honestly, that was the one year that probably had the most different people from all my other years. But
Yeah.
there were so many people that traveled on the same team throughout. Cameron Madani,
Yeah.
Izumi Shimanuchi,
Yep.
trying to think who else was on that particular one. Mike Ford, who trains a lot with Cameron Madani.
They're ISKC guys, right?
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
Illinois. Yep.
Well, Cameron's out in Colorado,
Okay.
Colorado Springs. I think Mike at the time might have been Illinois, but there was a ton of people on that team. And then after that, I kind of met a lot of other people that I stayed on the team with year after year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tommy Hood and Coach Baldus, and they were still the coaches on the team, so it was really cool to work with them. Coach Limcaco, I don't remember if he was in El Salvador, but he was in my other years, and it was a transition. Also, not having my dad as my coach, so working with new coaches was a thing.
What was that
Yeah, it
like
was
for you
really
though? Like was it tough not to have your dad there, or is it kind of and again, no disrespects, but like sometimes it's easier when your parents not there because you can learn a little bit more, not a
Yeah,
little bit more efficiently, but
yeah.
what was that like for you? Was it kind of like, okay, like I can finally listen and I don't know, like
Yeah,
talk
I
us through
pretty
that.
much had Coach Hood every year, and I had Coach Limcaco probably twice. And I really liked them, and I really listened to them. And Tommy Hood and I developed a good relationship. So from a coaching perspective, it was an easy transition.
Nice.
From the mental perspective, like my dad used to talk me down in staging. So I had to kind of shift and like do a little bit more of that on my own. And then I'd look back at videos and my dad's shaking the camera and coaching from behind it. So I think he struggled with it a little bit more than I did, but it was good.
So what do you mean talk you down? So I'm curious about that.
I would get all worked up back in staging. Stare at the girl in the corner and look at how intimidating she looks, and it doesn't matter, everything.
Yeah.
One year, just stereotyping alone, somebody had short hair, and I was like, she looks like a boy. Oh my god, what if she kicks like a boy? What if she hits me like a boy? Like the most ridiculous stuff, always.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what he would do. He would just talk me down, and eventually it'd get out there and it just switches anyway. And you get in, the mode switches.
Yeah, it's really what it is too. So like, I'm glad you said the word switch because when you're out there, it's either you do it or you don't, and that just like obviously just comes to
Yeah.
competition. So, so I know you mentioned El Salvador. Was there any like what other trips did you go on, and more importantly, what was a memorable trip or experience for you that you realized like yeah, like I am really good like, karate, like I can actually
Yeah.
be successful at this because you're surrounded by so many like-minded people. And I love that you said that, same people that made the team every year. So if there's one consistent thing about the NKF is the athletes are always getting better. So when did you
Yes.
start to feel that, Kelsey?
It was really cool. After El Salvador, because I think a lot of them were older and a lot of them had transitioned out, my second trip was to Cancun. And I met a lot of new faces there and people that are still in it today, Joan Orban and Elvis Ramick, Caesar Kalunga. Like, I met a lot of good friends that I stayed in touch with. And from there, I mean, you see the same people. You go to nationals, and they live all the way across the country, but you'd know when they fought, and you'd go and you'd watch them, and so you'd keep up with each other. And of my 7 years of trying out, I made alternate one year. Every other year, I traveled,
Yeah.
and that year I took third. I had lost to, I think it was Izumi Shimanuchi. It was like first fight,
Who's
and her
no
and I should
slouch,
have
by the
been.
way. Yeah.
No, oh my gosh. And her and I fought, and we were the first fight, which was awful because you're 1 and 2, and
Yeah.
I got knocked out, and then she won, and I took third, and then we fought in team later, and I beat her. And mentally, I was like, oh my God, I should be going on the team. But that was
Yeah.
the first year I didn't go, and they went to Spain. And I remember the group chats were going crazy, and I was like, guys, I didn't make it this year. And like that's when I really realized it was a huge community. Like,
Yeah.
these same people did make it, with some changes depending on what, but you knew everybody's weight class and you knew when everybody was competing. And so that community was huge.
Yeah.
And then as I got a little older and there was like talk of like, oh, maybe this goes into the Olympics. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
these Tom Scott blew up out of nowhere. I don't even
Y-
remember what year that was. And I was on the team with Sakura for years. And she blew up out of nowhere, and sponsorships were very new at the time.
Yeah. It's not like
Now I
today.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, now I think everybody's sponsored by crazy cool things all the time. But at the time, it was like Punok, and maybe that was it.
Yeah.
And sponsorships were coming out, and that's when you like really realize, like, oh, okay, this is becoming legit. Even though it already was, I
Yeah.
think I came into that phase of like, this is legit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because karate became more, not commercialized, but I think it got the recognition that it finally deserved in 2020, which I
Yeah.
still don't understand why it's not a freaking Olympic sport today.
Yeah.
And like they only did it that year just because it was in Tokyo. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah, for sure. And that was cool. By 2020, I was out of it already. Like, I was training for fun, competing locally, but I wasn't in that level anymore. But it was really cool to watch. I remember being in North Carolina and watching people I was on the team with win
yeah.
medals.
Yeah.
Ariel Torres and Sakura and Tom Scott, and watching, I think Cameron Madani was there, and I just remember watching and being like, oh my God, like I know them. I have pictures
Yeah.
with them. Like, it was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there any little like I don't know, slight not envy but a little jealousy there, or were you just like so proud for them?
So proud for them, first of all, like
Yeah.
amazing. And but you also, my mom and I talk about this all the time. You also know at a younger age, like I was really good in the US and I dominated my divisions. I made the team. We go overseas and I didn't do that well. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole nother step. And the people that went to the Olympics, like they
It was,
consistently did pretty well overseas.
yeah.
And so there is a point in time, I think a lot of people experience it, and I think my generation is currently in the midst of it, where like you kind of decide, like, are you going to go to college and take that route? Or are you going to make karate a priority? And maybe college is still in the picture, but karate is the priority.
Yeah.
And you could see the routes everybody took and the splits everybody took. And it works out for people in the way that it should.
Yeah.
But it's a life decision at that point.
Yeah, because like as they say, it's like only like what maybe 1% or less than that actually can make a career out of it, like you're
Hmm.
saying. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I didn't realize that you made the team like 6, 7 times. So like I mean, hats off to you because I think that's such a great accomplishment. And the
Yeah.
biggest thing that I always tell my students is, whether you're, competing locally or nationally, like wherever you go, it's the memories of the trip. It's,
Yeah.
whether it's a road trip or like on the airplane or at the airport,
Hmm.
because it's not even a competition itself. That's kind of
Yeah.
like that's why you're there, but it's everything else in between.
Hmm.
So no, that's pretty cool. So now I know you mentioned about college. So where did you go to college, and was that when you kind of made your shift to the whole fitness arena?
Yeah, I went to James Madison University, which is not that far from where I'm from, about an hour and a half. And there's a karate school up there, Brian Mays. He's wonderful. I taught kickboxing there for a long time. And my dad was like, "Well, you could train at the same time." And I was like, "Dad, it's not the same. Like,
Yeah,
it's not." And so for fun, I'd come home and I competed locally for a while. And I competed locally as late as last year still from time to time. But no,
nice.
I went to college and I went the route of I always loved athletes and fitness. And I knew if it wasn't karate, it was still similar.
Sure.
And so I went originally athletic training. And then I realized I don't like the injury aspect of it at all. And so I switched to exercise science and I got really into like the training of athletes and that whole concept. And then I went into group fitness like classes, and I became an instructor, and I taught classes at my university, and I did personal training with clients at my university, and I really stayed in love with the fitness realm, which kind of shaped throughout my years in school.
Nice. So you did 4 years, and then right after you graduate, or was there any what's the word internship? Was there anything that you did in college that helped spear where you are today, or did you
Yeah.
find that a little bit later after you graduated? Because I feel like no one really knows what they really want. I mean, you have an idea
No.
because
Yeah.
funny how like you're like growing up, you said so you're like how we all go like I don't know
Hmm.
these different splits, but I
Yeah.
guess the norm is like you got to go to college to be successful. I don't believe in that, but in this case, I mean, obviously you went to college, you got your degree.
Yeah.
So when did you really start? Like, when did you realize, like, okay, like I can make something out of fitness? Like, I can actually do this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, fitness is wide. It's a wide range. And I don't believe that, you need a college degree for it either, but I think your experiences shape you and
Yeah,
the variety of people you work with and the variety of activities you do. And when I hire people today, like that's what I look at. Like a degree is cool. A certification is easy to come by, especially
yeah,
nowadays, but the experiences and the personality is hard to come by. And, throughout school, all 4 years, I was convinced I was going to work at collegiate level and train athletes. Like that was that. That was it for me. There was no shaping my mind. Clearly, I don't do that today. After school, I took an internship at UNC and I got to work with the Olympic sports there. So I worked with my main sports were UNC baseball, cheerleading. I worked with wrestling. And then I dabbled in some of the other ones like lacrosse and field hockey and stuff like that. And I loved it. I was doing an unpaid internship. I was working like 12 hours a day. And then I would, for money, for pocket cash, I was coaching boxing classes at Title Boxing in Chapel Hill just so I could
that's
afford my apartment.
sick.
Yeah, and it was really cool. And I loved it. But over the course of time, like it kind of shifted for me. I was like, this isn't the life for me. I met some really amazing coaches out there. Nick Vitale, who just recently passed away, was one of my like biggest inspirations in this field. And Jordan Nilsson, I met some really great people. And Greg Gatz allowed me to do probably more than I was qualified to do. But I also met some other people in that field that kind of showed me it's not where I should be.
Yeah,
And I really liked working with people who wanted to be worked with.
yeah,
And athletes really love to play their sport.
yeah,
They don't necessarily love to lift and run. And so there was I had to like really push them to work hard. And I kind of missed the general population of people who just really loved it. So after my internship, I ended up shifting back to general population and I just taught classes all over the place. Like I was head trainer at Title Boxing. I was coaching Orange Theory classes. I was coaching probably 30 classes a week. I never had a voice.
yeah,
I was like burnt out as can be, but I loved it.
yeah,
Um, and that was kind of like the part where I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't necessarily know how to make it sustainable as a career.
sure.
And then COVID hit and kind of jacked up everything. I was managing title boxing, And I was like, everything shut down. I was doing outdoor classes in a field. I was doing Facebook lives. Like it was wild. And I decided to go back to school. And I had been teaching classes at Core 4 Fitness, which is where I'm currently at. And I decided to go back to grad school and get a degree and figure out what's next. Was it nutrition? Was it management? Like, what the heck am I going to do? And at the time, the owner here at Core 4 Fitness was like, don't go to school. You don't need a degree. Just stay here. And I want you to run a location. Like, I want you to run my second location. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's the dream.
Yeah.
I was like, when? Like, when is that happening? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, I can't just sit around and work part-time for this long. Like, I'm going to go to school. And so I went to school.
That's
And
funny. He said, I don't know.
he was like, I don't know. I mean, it's going to happen at some point, but I can't tell you when.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't wait around. Like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I stayed in touch with him and I stayed in touch with the gym and I came back and I coached over the summer and he ended up waiting for me 1 year in. He's like, have this role. And I was like, I'm finishing school. I'm already halfway through it.
Nice.
But yeah, I came back here and I started managing our location here and we've expanded and moved and we're already in the process of opening up another location. Hopefully we're looking for a location. And I kind of realized like, oh, I'm still heavily involved in fitness, but this is a career. Like
Yeah.
the people, the sales, the management, like I've turned it into a career with all the experiences that I had.
Yeah.
So
No, it's interesting hearing like how that path went and like, thank you so much for sharing that. It's like you started off as an athlete and now you can take what you learned as an athlete and you can kind of not kind
yeah.
of you can like use that to implement that with your students and all the people you get to help influence. So it's
Yeah.
cool seeing that role as an athlete now to a coach and a trainer. And something that you said pretty consistently was teaching. So I'm curious, so when you're teaching, Kelsey, what like what's your philosophy of teaching? Because every coach is
Yeah.
different and I always loved asking people this because I teach myself, whether it's karate or jujitsu, and how you teach people is so important because people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And obviously, there's
Yeah.
something about you that resonates with the audience and your students that you teach. So, like, what's your overall, whether you're teaching, like, and forgive me because I don't know what specifically you teach or what you
Yeah.
do. Is it like a class or is it like is it private lessons? So, like, what do you do? Yeah, as far as teaching and like what's your message that you want to convey to every person that you get to help?
Yeah, I've been at a lot of different places, and the messages change, obviously. But for where I am and what I preach now that I stand by is we do small group training here. So we have small classes.
Okay,
It's all
cool.
strength and conditioning based.
Nice.
Think CrossFit, but safer. And so we preach here longevity, right? Like most of our clients are middle-aged clients, and don't get me wrong, some of them are beasts, like absolute beasts.
Yeah.
The most fit people I know are in their 50s. But we preach longevity. Like what are you doing trying to run your fastest half marathon ever? Like not at this point in life. So longevity is a huge aspect, functionality is a huge aspect. And then I think the most important part, no matter what aspect of fitness you're in, whether it be coaching karate or kids or adults, is the personality. That's
Yeah.
the first thing I look for when somebody comes in looking for a job or whatever it may be, is you have to be able to adapt your coaching style to who you're working with. There's so many personalities out there, and the way I can banter with a 45-year-old man is way different than the way I banter with a 20-year-old girl that comes in here. And so the teaching style changes. Everybody wants to learn, even if they don't think they care. Education's huge. Like,
Yeah.
people want to know why you have them doing what they're doing.
Yep.
So that education and that, not just like do a bicep curl, but like, why are we programming it this way, is huge. But just being able to adapt to the person, to the athlete, to the whoever, like, I think that's the biggest part. And I think that's something that maybe can be taught, but I think a lot of times you either have that kind of it factor or you don't, which is kind of a toss up sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective. And you mentioned about how you banter sometimes with someone who's a bit older and someone younger. So I'm curious. So like what struggles do you face sometimes when you are teaching, of all walks of life? maybe something
Hmm.
that kind of resonates or something that you're worth, that you can share now. But I
Yeah.
think the viewers love to hear all the positives, which is great. But I think because I learned something from every guest, and I'm learning a lot from you now, just fitness wise. But I'm curious, like, what's the struggle that you face in the fitness industry, if it even does exist? I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
what's one thing
yeah.
that you can think of?
I would say, I remember we do group classes, so they get a lot of attention with our coaches, but it's still different than like one-on-one every day working with somebody. I would say the hardest thing, and I think this can also go back to athletes in karate, is I know what they do here. I
Yeah,
know how they lift here. I know how much water they drink here. But I don't know what they do at home. Like,
yeah,
are karate athletes practicing when they're at home? Are my members going home and eating potato chips and burgers every day? Like, so it is hard when people get frustrated. Like, why am I not getting the results that I want to get? Or why am I not winning the tournament that I want to win? Because I don't know every aspect of their lifestyle. And
yeah,
so that's probably the hardest part. When people are like, I'm doing the workouts as hard as I can, but I'm not losing weight. I'm like, well, there's more to it. There's a lot more to it.
yeah,
So that's probably the hardest conversation to have with people, especially when you don't know what they're doing.
yeah. No, I love how you said, like, it's like what they're doing when they're with you, but you don't know what they're doing when they're not with you, and
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
anywhere. And like, yeah. So we used to teach group fitness classes here, and I remember one thing that my instructor used to say is you can't outwork your plate. So
Yeah. I mean, and it's true. And God, don't even get me started on Ozempic right now. That's a whole nother thing. But
that's the shot. Yes, yes. Oh my goodness.
yes.
Actually, I'm gonna bring that up because it's frustrating because, like, I mean, okay, if you're obese, if you're big, I'll just say that I can sort of understand that you want to look a certain way, and society has kind of has made this way, like you have to look a certain way, like in order to feel
Yeah.
accepted. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy that people are putting something in their body that they don't even have because it's for diabetes, right?
For diabetes. And if it's prescribed for you, I mean,
But a
obviously,
lot of people aren't taking it because it's prescribed
no.
for
And we
them.
don't know enough about it and what it's doing. And
10
it
years
could
from
not
now,
be good for your bones.
no,
Let me just leave
absolutely
it at
not.
that.
Yeah, and then my
Yeah.
thing is, like, I see these people that take it, and again, I want to be careful about how I say it, but they pose, they said, "Oh, I've lost this," and people are like, "Oh my God, you look so good! Like what's your secret?"
Yes.
"Oh, girl,
Yes.
I've been working out." No, you haven't. And the
Just
thing
been
is,
just been eating right, getting my steps in. You're like, no, you don't do 30 pounds that fast though in that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's gotta like, oh, that's gotta be
Hmm.
like a gut check, like for you and those
Hmm.
guys in the industry that know how to do it the right way, or like preaching good habits. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's hard though, because people want, and we fall victim to this. I fall victim to this. Like, people want it done fast.
Sure,
Like, nobody
absolutely.
wants to play the long game. If you lose a karate tournament, like, you want to win the next one. You don't want to
Yeah,
play. You don't want to put in the work. And so people want it done fast.
instant
And
gratification. Yep.
yes, and it
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. And if it does, it doesn't stay that way.
No.
It goes right back to wherever you were before, if not worse.
Yeah, I know
So
some
yeah.
people they've told me like they've like I guess maxed out how much they can lose, but then like they've already lost 100 pounds. I'm like, how much weight are you trying to lose?
And
It's
what happens when you get off of it? I don't know.
well, that's the thing, they can't, right? Because they
Yeah.
have to take it for the rest of their life. I think I don't know. I'm not educated enough to know about it because
Hmm.
like it's a topic matter that kind of like
Hmm.
irks me, if you will. But
Hmm.
but yeah,
Hmm.
it's crazy. Things, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Yep. Yeah,
So
that's fine.
yeah, so like I really appreciate you really like talking about your fitness journey and the fact that encore, right? So
Yeah.
that you've really made it like yeah, sustainable, if you will, and it's cool that you're
Hmm.
doing something that you love. So I feel like when you go to work, it's not really work, right? It's just something that you do.
Yeah, and that was something that was always important to me. And so anyone out there that's listening, and if you feel lost, right, like, you got to pick what's important to you. And for me, it was passion. I had to love what I was doing. I had to go to work and love it.
Yeah,
And I was able to do that, you know. And my brother, for example, he didn't care if he had to love it. He wanted to make money, right? We went very different routes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely come into work and love the people and love what I do and love what I work with, and that's like huge for me.
Yeah.
So,
You work every day, so like typically what's your schedule like?
well, I pretty much working. If you love to work, it's
Yeah.
not hard to do it all the time.
Sure. No, no.
I have
I
to
get that.
pull myself back from time to time and be like, hey, let's chill out on this weekend. Like, but if it's sitting there and it wants to get done and I want it to get done, like usually I'll do it. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't say I have normal hours. You know, gym life is, and we open at 4:30 in the morning and we close at 8:30 at night. So do with that which you will.
Wow. That's awesome.
But
Um, how,
yeah.
how do you make time for yourself? Because I want
You
to kind of close
know?
off with that. So like you
Yeah.
spend so much time like, pouring yourself into other people. And as coaches, I can relate to that 1,000%. But sometimes we forget to take care of us first because if we're not taking,
Yeah.
we can't take care of others. And I'm not saying that's the case for you because you
Yeah,
seem
yeah.
much like in shape and you like, I don't know. It's like I feel like you have a really good grasp of life and where you are now. But Kelsey, I'm wondering like when do you like make time for yourself? Is that something you prioritize? Is that something that's
This
on your
is
list?
something I'm learning and recently learning.
Yeah.
And so if you have another podcast on and they give you a better answer, I'm all for it. I've gotten better over the years, over the past couple of years that I've been doing this. I'm able to kind of like put the phone away. I always prioritize my own workouts like I have to. It
Yeah.
just, that is my me time.
Yep.
So I always make space for that. I'm also a big go for a walk kind of person, and that's kind of my mental release from time to time. So I'll just put things down and put some music in and go for a walk. But yeah, I'm definitely learning the balance aspect, and you
Yeah.
know, I live with my boyfriend and I have friends and I have family, and like being able to do all of that. It's a challenging game.
Sure.
Not giving you a good answer on it, but
No,
I'm
it's
working
okay.
on it.
Yeah, self improvement. Yeah, like,
Yeah, for sure.
and actually, you did because you said like I think the biggest thing that just got from that is you had the ability right to put your phone down, which in today's
You
world
have to set
everybody's so
boundaries.
glued. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think those
Yeah.
boundaries aren't just with other people; it's with yourself as well. So
Yes. Other people are not usually the issue, you know. Without what I do, it's very rare that there are fires. Like it's very rare that it's so urgent, it has to get done right now.
yeah,
Usually it can wait an hour or a half a day or 2 days. Like it's never usually something that urgent. It took me a little bit of time to realize that. So,
yeah,
you know, boundaries, gotta learn it. Or you just walk around with two phones and you just put one down.
for sure.
Yeah.
Is that you right now? Like, do you have two phones? Is that like what like
Yeah.
one's work?
Personal and work. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
man. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's kind of just go back real quick. So you talked a lot about your competition days with karate and your family, and like huge shout out to your family as well, of course, for being that huge support system. And
Yeah.
then I loved your insight on the competition side. I learned that you went to Japan and you didn't get the results that you wanted, but you used that later on to kind of fuel that fire, if you will. And
Yeah.
six national teams is awesome. So,
Yeah. It's
and
amazing.
yeah, and obviously you have a lifetime experience to obviously to show for that. And then thank you for also diving into a little bit about the fitness aspect because I think when people think of fitness, they think, oh yeah, just going to the gym. But when you work in the gym, there's a lot of like hats that you wear, and
Yeah.
so pretty cool. So Kelsey, before we wrap this up, what's next for you? So I know we just oh, it's New Year's, guys. So yeah, like of happy 2026. So,
2026.
yeah, so what's on the horizon for you this year? Like, do you have any big goals that like you don't mind sharing or kind of speaking to
Yeah.
existence? So like what's something that like you have in mind?
Yeah. From a personal perspective, fingers crossed, I'd love to buy a house this year. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm also always training for something, just did a High Rocks. We run an event here called Urban Legends. So if anybody's into fitness, you're more than welcome to join. Nick, you can come hang out. I'm training for that in April as well. So I'm always training for something. And then from I guess a professional perspective, just growth in our youth program and our adult program, and hopefully opening up another location. So I'm always looking for the next thing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find you on social media, like your website or anything where
Yeah.
people who like, yeah. So where can people contact you if they want to get more information on just you as a person or your business or just fitness in general?
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I think my handle is Kelsey Noel too. I love to chat with anybody. And then I run all of the Core 4 Fitness accounts. So Instagram, Facebook. We also have a website. So you can definitely reach out to me on any of those as well. And I would love to just chat fitness, or if people have goals, or if people want to intern or anything. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, awesome. So, guys, this was Kelsey Silverman. Kelsey, thank you so much for your time today. It was really good to connect after all these years, and thank you for just
Yeah.
yeah being open and trusting like me with this process. One last thing, I always let my guest at the end give any shout outs to anyone that kind of comes to mind. So, is there anyone that you would like to give thanks to now before we close?
Yeah. Well, big shout out to my dad. I think he's been half the topic of this thing. So shout out Rob Silverman. And then another name I said a lot, I'm going to give a shout out to Tommy Hood. So if he's
Yeah,
out there, Tommy Hood, you're a huge inspiration in my whole journey here.
awesome. All right, well, Kelsey, thank you so much for being on today's show, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep.